After updating all 153 cities and islands in the Hurricane City database for the 2014 Atlantic hurricane season, it's time to show you what areas get affected most by hurricanes and tropical storms. The top 10 remains the same, with Cape Hatteras, North Carolina holding the top position. Hit by Hurricane Arthur in 2014, the area remains well above the other cities in the top 10. Notice the return rate, 1.36 years per named storms. Last year it was 1.37, so being hit by a hurricane only changes at a fraction. In fact, any of these top 10 areas needs to really have a lot of named storms in one particular hurricane season to create any distance or change order in the top 10. And you'll notice the reason as we get lower in the list. Case in point, 4 of the top 10 locations were affected in 2014, and none of these areas moved up. Here is a good example. The island of Bermuda was hit by 2 hurricanes in 2014. Last year, the island was affected once every 1.92 years. After the 2 hurricane hits, it went down to 1.88, but it still holds the number 8 position, showing you it's very difficult to change positions in the top 10. Number 11 through 20 remains unchanged. None of these locations were affected in 2014. Ditto for 21 through 30. When updating the database and the rankings, there is consideration given to the Hurricane Reanalysis Project, which is ongoing to revise past hurricane seasons, maybe adding storms, taking storms away. So that is factored into the database and the rankings. In the 31 to 40 group, none of these areas were impacted in 2014, but there are some changes due to the reanalysis project. Fort Lauderdale moved up from number 35 to number 31. This was because of a finding by the Hurricane Center's reanalysis project. Apparently back in 1956 there was a tropical storm that hit South Florida and affected Fort Lauderdale. So Fort Lauderdale moves up and ties Long Island, Bahamas with a gap of every 2.23 years. So we had to go to the tiebreaker system, which is the amount of direct hits from hurricanes. Well, both locations had 25 hurricane hits since 1871. The second tiebreaker are the amount of tropical storm direct hits. Both areas had 22 tropical storms, believe it or not, since 1871. So the third tiebreaker are brushes from hurricanes. Fort Lauderdale wins that one with 14. So Fort Lauderdale leapfrogs Long Island, Bahamas. So what this ended up doing was causing all of the cities and islands below Fort Lauderdale to move down one position. Notice down at the bottom, Elizabeth City, North Carolina is number 39. Last year the area was number 44. That is due to a brush from Hurricane Arthur last year and an addition of a named storm from the HURDAT reanalysis project moves this city up. In this last group, 41 through 50 is where you usually see the most changes because there's a bigger gap between named storms, and all it takes is one storm to move one city and have it leapfrog 5 or 6 positions. So there's a few changes in this group. The biggest change in this group was for Cape Cod, Massachusetts, which was brushed by Hurricane Arthur in 2014. Now this city was outside of the top 50 at number 52 and cracked the top 50 to position number 48 with the brush from Hurricane Arthur. Now moving up this many positions tied it with Mobile, Alabama, and we had to use the tiebreaker system. Both Mobile, Alabama and Cape Cod had 16 hurricane hits since 1871. So the second tiebreaker is tropical storms, where Cape Cod wins with 25 tropical storms compared to Mobile, Alabama's 20 tropical storms. Also of note, Norfolk, Virginia moved up from number 48 to number 45 due to an addition of a storm in the Hurricane Reanalysis Project. At the top of the rankings page, there is a mention that this list would be totally different if this were for hurricanes only. Here's the top 10 for hurricanes only, and you'll see there's no comparison to the list of all named storms. Turns out that 5 out of the 10 you see here are not even in the top 10 hurricane hit list. The numbers in red indicate the rankings for all named storms. Notice Delray ranked 35 in the named storm list, but number 7 for hurricane hits only. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that the Northwest Bahamas are the most likely place to be hit dead on by a hurricane in any hurricane season. Going back to 1871, the area gets hit dead on once every 3.67 years. Now, this is a more frequent return rate than most other cities in the database have for all named storms. Now, look at Delray Beach down the list. All named storms happen once every 2.27 years. So there's not much of a difference between those two numbers there. So the Bahamas really get hit a lot by hurricanes, but there is a big difference between the list of named storms versus hurricanes. To learn more about all this, visit hurricanecity.com/rank or hurricanecity.com/cities. I'm Jim Williams. Thank you for watching.